The views and opinions expressed in the Golden Boot podcast are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Golden Boot podcast as a whole.
Y'all ready to get rolling? Quiet on the set. Hey, welcome back. Another hot episode of the Golden Boot. It's your boy Pooh Bear. I got my man Ant Petty Murphy in the building. What's good with you, my boy?
Tired as I've probably been in a while, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. But we're here. We here. It's football time, man. We good.
It is, man. We already at week 4 in college football. Since the blue shirt revenge week. We got UCLA coming up. We got our man James H. Williams for BLEAV in UCLA gonna be joining us shortly. But before we get to that, we got some silliness and stuff, man. First, I'm gonna start with some actual positive good news, man. It's a parent-teacher conference today with Dylan's teaching and stuff, and it was all like, so she was telling us all the little stuff, the positive, and he's doing well, this, that, and the other. Then she told me something that just really warmed my heart. Said that actually, because my wife asked, what about socially, how is it? She said, we know how Dylan is, he's does well, he's everybody's friend. But she says, actually today in the lunchroom, he had a group of boys with him and he led them in prayer. I was like, wow. So I was, really, warm my heart, made me feel good and stuff. And, just been hearing that a lot about the kids, man, that, doing a good job raising right. So I'm glad they don't watch the show so they can know their dad a fool, be acting up. But, man, that warmed my heart. Then I'm telling you what else I thought about today. All the news been going around about Diddy and the indictments and everything going on. So you know what I thought about when they said they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil? Remember that time we had Tank Guillory on the show and Daniel
you're stupid, man.
Daniel said, "What kind of baby oil do you use?" What? We gotta reach out to Daniel, make sure he all right. He might make sure he went at no
Chill out, man. Chill out.
He went at no freak off. Oh man. Sorry though. Sorry. I know we're off track. But man, let's get to it, man. Want to say to everybody, thank you everybody for tuning in. Like we always say, thank you for watching. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Hey, do us a favor. Like Danny say, everyone hit the like and share. Also do us a favor and subscribe. I think we like 40, 30, something like that away from hitting that 1,000. We still hanging in there, man. We almost there. So y'all do us a favor, go over to YouTube and subscribe. What up, Noah? No, I say you got that fresh cut. Yeah, man. I did a little something. But man, first up, y'all know what we gotta give a shout out to our sponsors over at BetOnline. BetOnline.ag. We will be back in 1 minute. BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your sports information, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds, lines, and player injury reports for this year's NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters. This season, we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. We have everything from NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL to golf, tennis, UFC, and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games that you can play right from your home. Head on over to betonline.ag today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use the promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hey, we are back. Man, it's been a crazy week. We talked about on Monday about the win over South Carolina. The way things have been going, you would have thought we lost by 25 points. All these narratives coming out, all of a sudden now the players don't like BK.
Man, I could understand people having criticisms of BK after Saturday's performance because, like we talked about, if Lenore Sellers is healthy, you lose that game. So criticism is fair, you know what I mean, and critiques are valid because there's a lot of things that this team needs to improve on, and the preparation and or lack thereof is one of them, and that falls directly at the feet of the head coach. But as far as the players don't want to play for him and the players don't like him and all that kind of stuff, I ain't privy enough to know how the players in the locker room feel. But I tell you this, you don't come back from 17 points down if you ain't playing for your coach. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ain't playing for your coach, if you ain't playing for your team, if you ain't all in and you ain't bought in, you checking out as soon as you get down 17-0. You know what I mean? You don't have no fight to try to come back. So I personally feel like there's no truth in validity to the reports, especially when you hear players like Kyron Lacey coming out, refuting it, saying that the opposite of what these reports say. So I ain't gonna take too much stock into it, bro. I think it's it's one of them things where people know that when you say stuff like that, you're gonna get clicks. You know what I mean? Especially coming off of a performance like that. So I feel like it was just the perfect time for them to run a story like that to try to maximize it. You know what I mean? But I ain't buying into it.
Yeah. One thing you said, you talk about when players, you hear players how they talk about them. You talk about Kyron Lacey. And I said, of course he's going to come out and support his coach. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't the players say, oh yeah, I like this? But it wasn't just what he said, it's how he said it. It's like if you look at his face, he kind of lit up. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about BK. And we've seen that before about how people we think are terrible coaches, but players, you know what I'm saying, when they talk about them, they light up and, and give them kudos. Hell, we just saw Matt House and we saw how the players felt about him, how they talk. So, I mean, I think it's a terrible. I think it's terrible when you are a local media member and you let somebody from the outside come in and give details about your team. That speaks volumes to me. But neither here nor there.
I mean, it's been a lot of things that local media has done lately that I personally feel like is out of line. I'm not gonna call nobody out, but I just feel like whenever you especially if you call yourself a journalist, you know what I mean, or
Mm-hmm.
if you gonna be on the beat of a team or whatever you want to call it, I feel like there's ways you got to carry yourself, and there's certain lines you can't cross. And I feel like it's been a couple people in our media over these past couple weeks that have done that.
I agree. Completely agree. Yeah. But we got a game to talk about. I just want to talk about that the whole BK narrative stuff, get that out the way. But we got a game to talk about, and we got a special guest that's coming back to talk with us from the BLEAV in UCLA show. I ain't gonna just say podcast. I'm gonna say show. From the BLEAV in UCLA show. I guess in light of the whole Diddy thing, can we say label mate? Label mate. Welcoming back Mr. James H. Williams, co-host of BLEAV in UCLA and reporter for Hey, what's going on, James, man? It's good to have you back, man.
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
All
I
right.
can't complain, man.
No target this time?
No target. No target. I thought I'd be, decent, respectable. You invited me back the second time, so I thought the least I can do is show up at the house. I did think about going to Walmart, but they didn't have a good seating arrangement like they did at
Gotcha.
Target. Target's just a little too classy. They got a good setup there. So the
Gotcha.
local Walmart wasn't hitting it well. So I just had to, come on over through here.
You might, because I heard Chick-fil-A got that fire Wi-Fi. That might be another place you can.
Don't tempt me now. I usually go to Starbucks though. Starbucks is the place to be.
Yeah, Starbucks.
That's very true. Very true. But man, welcome back. We had you on previously. It was previewing the year.
That felt like a long time ago.
It does. It does. We like I said, we're already at week 4.
It's crazy.
But man, so far, let me ask this. UCLA comes in this 1-1, dropped laid an egg against Indiana. So far, what's the feel around, saying the team?
It's kind of crazy. I was not at practice this week. But what some of the other reporters are saying is like it's low energy. They're just kind of, I don't know if they're walking around with their heads down or anything, but they're making it out like it's doom and gloom over there. Deshaun Foster said that wasn't the case. Supposedly, one of the reporters, you guys are talking about local media. We're good people. We're good people. No. But one of the reporters was saying that they were waving their towels around like as if it was like some sort of rallying cry of like, hey, like let's get it together. Let's wave the towels and whatnot. So Foster was kind of asked about that today, and he's like, if y'all would pay attention, that's something we do at the beginning of every practice. We do that for, whatever certain period or whatever drill they're going to do or something like that. So, sometimes it's harder to read into things. And again, I mean, it's like we're only there for 15 minutes. I mean, at that point, they're just doing warm-ups and special teams. I mean, half the guys, if you're starting, you're kind of normally throwing the ball around on the other side of the field. You're not really kind of having to participate in the special teams things. So I don't know what low energy they really could have seen. The more significant thing is there's a lot of key guys that are hurt and that were located in the weight room. And when you're in the weight room, that usually means you're going to be out, or you're at least out of practice. And usually, if you stack up a couple days of those in the weight room and you're not out on the field, it usually means that you're not going to be playing. Jay Toya, the defensive lineman there in the middle for that D line, obviously being the most significant one, a guy that was briefly in the transfer portal after spending some time there during the spring, decides to go to the Texas spring game and decides to come back and was in the airport wearing UCLA shorts. So I don't know what that whole deal was, but obviously a UCLA play to get him back. And so he's back. I've heard some fans saying, "Oh, it's a silent protest." I mean, they're 1-1. It's not like they're 0-2. So, it's a little slow. It doesn't feel like 1-1. It definitely feels like 0-2, just because the Hawaii game, they got off to a slow start there too. I mean, you can point to a lot of different things as to what may be the reason for it, but it's a little concerning out here, especially knowing that the 3-game stretch that's ahead with LSU, Oregon, and Penn State isn't going to be doing any favors for UCLA going forward. I think the biggest thing going into the season, I'm sure I even said it on the show, is you had to win these first 2 games. And when you lost to Indiana the way you did, and the way, it's kind of viewed as like you lost to a team that's normally at the bottom of the Big Ten. I think Indiana had like 2 wins last year, 2 or 3 wins, and they had a new coach as well coming in this year. So
Right.
to lose the way that they did, it felt like it was more than just one loss. It felt like 2 losses in a way. So yeah, they don't have a whole lot of momentum going into this game. So yeah, looking a little ugly. So we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned the slow start versus Hawaii.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And something that was common in that game as well as the game with Indiana was the lack of offensive explosiveness and
Mhm.
and almost the lack of offensive identity, I would say. Um, when y'all hired Eric Bieniemy, I thought that would kind of jumpstart the offense and y'all would have an explosive offense, and it's been anything but that so far. What's been some of the reasons why that offense hadn't been able to get going?
Yeah, it's a little surprising just because you would think, obviously, when you hired Deshaun Foster, the big kind of plus for that was that you got to keep a lot of your guys. So it's not like you're running in a whole bunch of new guys because you have a first year coach. All of those guys have been there, and if anything, you've added some more key pieces to that offense. I don't know if it's just they're having to pick up a new offense, even though it's a bunch of familiar faces. It's still a new offense. They're trying to have to get over that hurdle of learning. And I look back and I still try to consider the timeline because when Chip Kelly left, it was so late in the hiring cycle,
Yeah, yeah.
way late in the hiring cycle, that you kind of just think of all the moves after that. Like, okay, Eric Bieniemy then would have had to have come in maybe a little bit later than you would have wanted and stuff like that. Um, so I don't know. Maybe they're just still a little behind the 8 ball. Um, Eric Bieniemy spoke to the media today and was pretty positive. Even though he can be a character out there during the practice. He can get on the guys, but no, he means well. And I think the biggest thing is he's just saying that there's still a lot of mistakes that they have to clean up, and it's a matter of all those guys having to play together, um, all at once. Sometimes it's like half the offense can't be doing well, and the other half isn't holding up their own. So he remains positive on the whole thing. I think the one thing about Eric Bieniemy, and I think this just goes to him kind of being a pro's pro and being in the NFL and whatnot. He kind of took on and shouldered most of that responsibility today when talking about where the offense is and how things
Yeah.
are going. There were a few guys who were kind of singled out and asked about, hey, tell me about Ethan Garbers and TJ Harden, who are supposed to be some of the stars on this. And he's like, the guys come in, they have great energy and whatnot. It's just, we got to execute stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to. Now, some of that lack of execution showed there in the Indiana game when you're fumbling on the first, second play of the drive. You put your defense in a short
Mm.
field situation, and Indiana's able to capitalize that, and they're up 14 points before you even are able to run more than 4 or 5 plays on offense. So, it's okay to make mistakes, and Eric Bieniemy said it's okay to make mistakes, especially if you're going to be able to learn from them, right? As long as you're able to learn from those mistakes, then you'll be fine. But yeah, you can't do yourselves a disservice by fumbling that far removed from your side of from reaching the end zone there on the opposite side of the field. So not a good situation they put themselves in. They got some work. They have some work to do, and if they're going to struggle during these first 2 games that I kind of thought were the games they should be kind of working and perfecting what this offense is going to be, might not be any prettier when you get here in this 3-game stretch you have coming up.
Yeah. So offensively, as we mentioned, it's kind of not what it was. Not what was expected, especially coming in with the enemy. But what about on the other side of the ball? How's the feel of the defensive performance? Are they on par with what was expected? Are they a little bit behind? LSU should worry about.
Yeah, no, I mean, they should have been a little further along. Again, I think just about every guy that was kind of mentioned among the significant guys that were out and in the weight room was Jay Toya, the defensive lineman, Ali Cajo, the starting linebacker. there might have been like one or two other dude or another defensive lineman. Keanu Williams was also in the weight room. So the defensive line is just looking a little shaky on who's even going to be out there to play this upcoming week. Again, a lot of familiar faces returning. You would think things would go well, but again, it's hard to um, say you're going to be a top 15 defense again the way you were last year when you had Latu, you had the Murphy twins. That's just hard production to try and replace, right? So
Right.
the expectations were going to have to be dampered down a little bit. I think as long as they're healthy, again, as long as they're healthy, I think they have an opportunity to still do pretty well for themselves. But if they're out without the guys that I've already kind of mentioned, Toya, Alikaho, etc., then it might look a little rough. But I think they're doing pretty well. Again, it goes both ways, right? I think again, I mentioned that the offense fumbling the ball where they did and stuff like that. The defense is going to be looked at like, well, hell, you gave up 40 something points. Well, yeah, but what are the situations in which those points are being given up? So I think the defense is doing pretty well, but obviously they know they have some things on their end that they want to clean up, especially after giving up 40 or something points.
Yeah, I was looking at y'all's last game, and it seemed like the secondary was probably kind of the weak spot on that defense. If anything,
Hmm.
it looked like y'all's run defense has been pretty solid so far this year, but maybe the secondary is just a little bit behind where the front seven is.
Yeah, that's normally kind of what the case has been. Just about the whole time I've been covering UCLA. There's been a year or two where they looked much more improved, and I think even then that was probably in 2022 when you had a very senior heavy group. Quentin Lake, who's a team captain, a DB for the LA Rams now was on the UCLA defense not that long ago. So they had some guys then. So obviously they had some younger guys that they've brought along. They did have another guy, Kalen Moore from the transfer portal, who came in from Cal, and he's actually been a surprise starter. We thought Devin Kirkwood would be the one starting. He's kind of a third, four-year guy for them, someone who was getting reps even as a freshman. He has the size and whatnot, but I don't know if he's coming along or maybe he's I don't want to say I don't know if he's maxed out, but as far as what he's done, it hasn't really been up to par to what the hype has been around him. So obviously there's still a lot of season left for him to improve on that and kind of take that next step. But yeah, the defense has been pretty shaky. The secondary more specifically, but again, yeah, the run defense has still been a bright spot. That's what it was with Latu and the Murphy twins. They did have Toya back and some of these other guys, and the defensive line coach from last year is now the defensive coordinator. So obviously,
Mhm.
there's going to be an emphasis and there's going to
Yeah.
be that familiarity there and what is being done to complement the pass rush there up front. So that's always gonna be a strength of the defense as long as Akaika Malloy, I believe, is the defensive coordinator. Um, they did lose Yanton Lin. I think the other thing with the secondary is two of their starters from last year should have returned, but they went to USC. They followed Yanton
Mhm.
Lin. And actually one of them was Ramsey, who was pretty significant in that game between LSU and USC. So they did lose some guys, even though they were some underclassmen, and that didn't do them any favors either. But yeah, they're definitely playing behind the eight ball there when it comes to the secondary.
Okay. Back on the offensive side,
Hmm.
because in kind of preparation to talk about this game and looking it over, the quarterback is your leading rusher at this time.
Oof, I didn't even check that, but yeah, it sounds about right because people have been
Yeah.
talking about the run game and where it's been. TJ Harden comes back. Carson Steele was there last year sharing reps with him. He might actually be in the mix to get some reps here for the Kansas City Chiefs this
Mhm.
upcoming week with Pacheco being out. But TJ Harden's back. I think a lot of people are expecting him to take the next step or to really be that workhorse. I don't know how much of it is him trying to get comfortable. I think there's a lot of expectation for the run game just because Eric Bieniemy was a running back. The head coach was the running backs coach the last 5 years, and Deshaun Foster. So I think a lot of people would be expecting more. I think they know they got to kick it into high gear. Um, they do have Jalen Berger, who's kind of a wait and see guy. I think he got a couple snaps there at the end of the Indiana game, obviously with it being out of reach already. But I think Jalen Berger, someone who transferred in from Michigan State, again, very late, like literally like the last week of training camp, I think he finally got going. after having him kind of sit out a couple weeks to get acclimated and get a full understanding of everything. I think once they add him to the mix, maybe the run game improves a little bit because they kind of have a little bit of a different skill set that they can add there into their run game mix a little bit. So Jalen Berger would be interesting for them to have back and have him get more reps, but they really have kind of taken it very easy with him. I think he's coming off an injury too. I can't remember if that was an ACL or whatnot, but I know they were kind of taking it slow with him for that. The other interesting fact was who's your guys' running back that got hurt in week 1?
John Emery.
Yeah, there was like talks of him, I think, in the offseason coming to UCLA. I don't know if you guys remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
But that kind of fell through. So Jalen Berger was the running back that was brought in quickly after it looked like Emery wasn't going to be coming there. And obviously, that's pretty sad to hear about just Emery and his situation and what it's been for him just the last couple years. So,
yeah. On that offensive side of the ball, you talked about it a little bit earlier in the Indiana game, putting the ball on the turf, but turnovers has been kind of an issue for this offense as they've got more turnovers than touchdowns. So what's the concern as far as taking care of the ball? Is it, you think it's just early season and they just not holding on to the ball, or do you think there's something to it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know, especially in the Hawaii game, a lot of it was just trying to settle them down, especially quarterback Ethan Garbers, and playing excited, him finally getting his opportunity to be the starter after waiting the last 3 years. So, I think it's just been a lot of the early game jitters, the week 0 mistakes or week 1 mistakes. I think they played Hawaii in week 1. So I think Eric Bieniemy was even asked about Ethan Garbers again today. I think there was one play in the Indiana game where he looked the Indiana dude almost dead in the eye, or you would imagine he looked him dead in the eye and threw the ball right at him. Like, what are you doing? What kind of play? Like, trying to do the most to try and make something out of something that probably just isn't there. So I think you got to eliminate some of those, and they just have to make better decisions and play smarter ball. And I think if they're able just to clean up those basic things, it sounds very simple, but obviously I'm not a quarterback, so I'm not in the position to say, oh yeah, that's easy. I don't know why he didn't see this, he didn't see that. But I would imagine if they clean up what are normally considered the basic mistakes, or just not trying to do the most when you don't always need to, and just live to play another down, another play, another drive, then I think once they have that understanding, I think they'll be on a good footing. Garbers has been there for a while. The fan base is not particularly thrilled with him at the moment. The one thing about Garbers, some people want Garbers out of there. The thing is there's not a whole lot of other guys behind them that they can lean on if it's not Garber. So they're going to have to continue to run with him. I think they still have confidence in him. Justin Martin is the backup. Prior to him playing in the Indiana game and kind of garbage time there, he had only played a little bit against like Alabama State or Coastal Carolina, and it was like 2 or 3 snaps, and he ran the ball 2 out of like the 3 or 4 plays that he had, and had him thrown a college pass until last week. And then they have some other dude who kind of came out of nowhere. He was a walk-on, I think, who has been in college football for like 4 or 5 years, but just has not played at all. Like, I think he's been at like BYU or something. I don't even remember his name, but he's been at like BYU, and he's a 3rd string guy. So there's just not a lot of game experience on this roster beyond what Garbers provides. So for whatever people may think about, hey, we need to get Garbers out of here, I mean, it's kind of slim pickings after that. So they kind of have to roll with what they have, and just kind of really hope that he continues to make better decisions going forward.
So Death Valley is a home field advantage in itself. We were hoping that this would have been a night game, just playing UCLA, and at night, Tiger Stadium.
Was there any reason why it wasn't? Because I was talking to Marty Smith from ESPN, who's a big SEC guy, and he was kind of saying like, yeah, like kind of would have thought it'd be a night game, especially for LSU. So I don't know. Did you guys hear anything as to why that may have been?
No.
It's probably going to be something like Rate TV or something.
Yeah, because you got the Tennessee Oklahoma game that's going to get the primetime spot.
Yeah, that's true.
So with that, our good man Paul's brings up a good point. He says 2:45 kickoff, and the forecast is calling for at least 90 degrees with a real feel in the 100s. UCLA will get an authentic, humid Louisiana experience. So,
boy.
I'm not trying to give UCLA excuses or make excuses or anything like that.
They better start hydrating now.
I guess that's my question. How much of a factor do you think the humidity and the weather is going to play in this?
I think it will be significant, right? Because early on, my first thought as you were just reading the question is, well, I mean, it has been 100 degrees and stuff out here the last couple of days, and yada yada yada. But when that humidity is different, right? We don't have that kind of humidity out here, so I'm not even going to pretend like, oh yeah, the weather out here, there should be no problem. It'll probably be a factor, right? And I think the other thing, and I think the thing that this team is going to start learning, obviously, they had a little bit of that as they went further west coast to Hawaii, was they had to take that trip. Now they're taking another trip to LSU. How much is that going to play into it? Because that's been the whole thing with a lot of these Big Ten games. They're going to go all the way across the country to play Rutgers at some point. I don't know if you guys have seen, it's been on Twitter and whatnot. I may have even said it on the show last time, but UCLA's travel schedule is the equivalent to a trip around Earth. So they're going to be putting on quite a bit of miles here. And, it's still early in the season, obviously, but how does that road stuff start to handle? How do they handle that road situation? Because a lot of their non-conference games, and again, it's still surprising that one, it's on the schedule at all, but just in general, is since I've been covering the team. I mean, prior to me covering the team, they had been playing Oklahoma and they played home and homes and whatnot. But you're playing against LSU. You had LSU at your place, but prior to that, I mean, a lot of these other non-conference games have been Bowling Green, Alabama State, Coastal Carolina, NC Central. All these games have been at home, these non-conference games. They're not going to LSU to play, they weren't really taking on big challenges. They were just trying to get through a non-conference schedule that was easy enough to get these, mistakes out of the way so that they can be rolling and trying to make the most of whatever they can in what was the Big 12 at the time, or the Pac-12 at the time. So this is just going to be a little bit of a different situation for a lot of these guys on the roster, where even some of these upperclassmen that are there didn't have a lot of these big non-conference road games and were waiting a little bit later into the season, usually week 4, week 5, before they were really even having a test like this, let alone competition-wise, but just getting on the plane and traveling.
Yeah. Deshaun Foster. His his introduction to most of college football.
I knew it was coming. Go ahead.
It was awkward to say the least. You know what I mean? But I think I like the fact that he kind of owned it, made fun of himself a little bit about it, wasn't too serious about it. But I know he's a UCLA guy, and I know he's been on that staff for a while. But what's the feeling of him as being the main guy and him being the one who's running the program?
Well, it was pretty positive early on when he's been hired and whatnot. And I think overall, the fan base, the program, the university, they love Deshaun Foster, right? Just for what he's been, for him to stay as long as he did. He did briefly this offseason decide he was going to move on and he was going to be the running backs coach for the Raiders. The job opens up and they bring him back after the players demanded him back. There's a lot of love for Deshaun Foster. The last couple weeks have been a little frustrating for the fans. I'm in some group chats with some of the fans, just so I'm in there to get a vibe check on them. They're not very happy right now. I'm like, damn, y'all kind of turning on Deshaun already, or what's going on here? So, things are kind of real, and things are start, the honeymoon phase is kind of over. Now it's getting real, and so now it's kind of like, oh, but at the same time, it's like, what were y'all expecting, right? It's like you get a new coach, you're changing the coaching staff, you're joining the Big Ten at the same time. I don't know what you guys are expecting to happen. It's just this. I mean, if this is a Pac-12 schedule, then maybe they're winning at least 4 or 5 games. But when you're playing Big Ten teams and you're losing to teams like Indiana, who were at the bottom of the Big Ten last year, yeah, it's going to be a little frustrating. I've always considered this year as a year 0, where do what you got to do, get whoever you need in, whoever you want out, stuff like that. and kind of go through that growing pains. I think that's the understanding that sometimes fans don't have a lot of patience, and I think sometimes that just kind of leads them getting riled up and they don't really kind of settle down and realize the situation as a whole, because they were talking so highly about how he was doing all this recruiting and he was better than Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly wasn't recruiting, and now they're doing this and everything's looking great. But now some of the games on the field aren't looking the way they want, and now that they're kind of starting to turn on Deshaun a little bit. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to get any better just with the games that they have coming up. Now, can they all reevaluate things, get a little better during the offseason, and they get some better guys in or whatever the case may be? Sure, I think there's a chance for that. I don't know if the university is going to punt on Deshaun Foster and have him out the door after 1 year, but it's looking a little shaky, but it is what it is. I know Deshaun Foster said at the beginning of the year that he's looking to win. This is a year one as far as he's concerned, and they're trying to win. They're trying to win as many games as possible. But for me, again, as I mentioned, when he was hired, the hiring cycle, way beyond the hiring cycle, trying to learn a new offense. You have a new defensive coordinator, even though he was there the last couple of years. It's just going to be a tough year, and just being in the Big Ten, it's not going to get any better. Let alone you don't have Michigan, you don't have Ohio State on the schedule, and you have a non-conference game against LSU. It's gonna get ugly before it gets, rosy and pretty and nice, if it ever gets to that.
Let me piggyback off that real quick, Pooh.
Mhm.
So you mentioned this a year zero for you, but for him, he considers a year one. What does he need to do this year, in your opinion, to kind of buy some time with the fans and kind of give himself a little more leeway in their minds? Because if this thing doesn't go well and they ultimately let him go, that could sever the ties between a great player for the university and the university, which is why I think some schools like Auburn and Cadillac Williams decided not to go that route. You know what I mean? So if what does he have to do to keep from that being the case where you end up ruining that relationship?
So that's the thing. Like I started thinking about this a little. I mean, it seems obvious, but not that I follow much in Nebraska. But when the whole Scott Frost Nebraska
Mhm.
thing, and he's out the door, and they treated him like, get out of here, bum. That's kind of how it
Yeah.
looked like. It's like, damn, it's like, and I think about, like, will they do that to Deshaun? I mean, if it gets to that, I mean, they did with Carl Jarrell, who was an alumni. Rick Neuheisel was an
Yeah.
alumni, and he got let go. So, and maybe that's the thing, is they lean too heavy on the alumni,
Could be.
and they play too much of that loyalty, and they kind
Yeah.
of, But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one thought that came across my mind when they hired Foster. It's like, well, if this don't work out, then that kind of messes it up, because then he ain't gonna come back for a couple of
Mhm.
years, to be celebrated and all these other, just different things. It just makes things shaky. But I think the things that went into it were just the players wanted Deshaun. Some of the fans have said you still shouldn't have done it, even though that's what the players wanted. If the players want to move on, you have to move on, because it almost makes it out like it's a short term. And I'm not trying to discredit Foster, because I think he could potentially do some good things in the long run with this program, just based on the things he's doing with improving the recruiting and whatnot. But it comes across as a short term decision when it looks like you're trying to please the roster right now,
Yep. Yep.
instead of what the roster is going to be 4 or 5 years from now with the guys that he brings in. That loyalty is still going to hold some weight. It's kind of like what you guys were talking about with Brian Kelly, like, oh, they don't want to play for him, or whatever the case is, whatever the storyline is. That's kind of what it was for Chip too, and maybe there was some truth to it with Chip. At the same time, hell, Chip recruited y'all, and y'all said yes and came here. So for how are you going to say you're not going to play for him, and he's the reason he sold you to come here? So that's kind of on y'all in a way. But um, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Foster. It's just like, and that just makes it tough when you hire an alum. If it was up to me, if I was an alum of any school, I would not take any job for any, because whatever legacy, whatever stock, whatever value
Mhm.
you have in their eyes,
Completely
all that could have,
ruins it.
Yeah.
you have 2 or 3 bad years as a coach, and it just ruins it.
Yeah.
So, it sucks. It sucks, but, Foster, I think, has enough belief in himself and wanted to take the challenge on. I think his goal he had said on the BLEAV in UCLA football podcast, a year or 2 before he was hired, that his goal was to be a head coach. Now, he didn't he kinda came along, became a head coach, but didn't have any coordinating experience. But at the same time, with what today's college football head coach is nowadays, they're all kind of CEOs and managers and movers and shakers anyways, right? So I think Foster still has to kind of get settled in and developed into what it is he's going to be. You know, um, the last couple times most of the time we've interviewed him since he's been the head coach, he'd been giving us injury updates, this and that. And at the same, we're like, this is great because Chip wasn't giving any of that stuff to us. But now we're in week 3. Deshaun Foster announced today, no more injury updates. And I was like, oh man, he's already becoming a grizzled old head coach at this point. I think it's just all part of the learning process. It's not a game anymore, right? And you have to take it seriously. But I think and he will not admit this. Maybe he doesn't feel like this, but there just has to be pressure when you're coaching at your alma mater. Because I don't know. I couldn't do it. No way.
Yeah. That actually kind of ties into what I'm saying. And our good man from down south football, Dave, look at the picture with the Florida State. But he said he's going to need at least 3 years. So I guess my question is this more of like what we're seeing this year? Is this more of a filling out process, or is it more of a lack of talent?
I don't know if it kind of.
And I don't let me get you in trouble.
No, you're fine. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. No, I don't know if it's a lack of talent because I think they have some quality guys, and these are guys that were there when Chip was there. Chip recruited them. I think maybe in a way, like to me, I think it's just more so the schedule. Like the schedule is going to make this team look worse than it actually is. Again, if this is the Pac-12, they would probably mess around and win 5 games or something like that. I think Deshaun does have to get settled in. I'm saying, like David is saying in the comments, they need to give him at least 3 years. I think so too, and that's what I was telling people about Chip, because when Chip first came in the door, there was mass exodus. People were leaving. They then became the youngest roster in the country, or like the second youngest roster in the country. And this was all kind of before the transfer portal, so you couldn't backfill the people that were leaving. So you had more scholarship. You had like scholarships that were just hanging out that you didn't even give out because more people left than you had come in. So yeah, I mean, it's the thing I've learned from Chip Kelly's time there is just the first years are going to be ugly, right? I mean, Indiana's on a roll. They beat their last 2 opponents by over 40 points, and you don't see that more often than not with the first year guy coming in. You're not going to get that at UCLA. And again, talking about why they hired Foster, they didn't have anybody leave the program. But at the same time, how short-sighted could that be if you're not removing a lot of those guys and him bringing in even more guys than he probably could have in the portal if he had more spots open, right? Like he needs to bring in his own guys. And again, that's going to take a couple years. Maybe a lot of that leeway head coaches had before is kind of thrown out the window a little bit because you have the transfer portal, and now you can make a roster and win a championship a lot quicker than it would when you're starting from scratch and having to go through the high school ranks. But yeah, he should have 2 or 3 years. And the thing with Chip Kelly was by the time he got to year 3 and year 4, and it was all his guys on the roster, or 99% of the guys were his guys on the roster that he recruited, they had a winning season. They won like 9 games and were on the edge of tying that program record of 10 wins, right? Now, things did go a little downhill after that, but that those first few classes that he was able to recruit were those ones that became the building block of what was that winning season. So it's going to take a little time. Again, it's just a matter of how much time are they going to give Foster. They did just get a new president in. Well, he's not in yet, but the Miami president is going to be the president at UCLA here. What is he going to decide? Is he going to want this athletic director, which is a whole different story? Fan base is not happy with the athletic director. Are they going to want to keep Deshaun Foster as the football coach? Heck, when you have a new president, that president doesn't care about Deshaun's legacy or whatever the case is. He's looking to, he wants to win football games if that's the kind of president he wants to be. So there might be some changes just in that regard, right? So we'll see. It just kind of depends, but yeah, I think he needs to have a little bit more time to really say what it's going to be, because I don't think it's going to be a good look on the university, again, considering who Deshaun Foster is to that university, if you let him go after 1 year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a smart move. And again, they were kind of in the red financially because they had let go of some other coaches from before I even started covering the university that they still owed money to. I don't think they want to continue to owe someone else more money and just have them on the books and they're not even around, right? So I don't think Deshaun is the issue, but I think he needs to have some guys. I mean, he's already, brought in a general manager. He's already brought in, a recruiting staff and just things that weren't even there prior when Chip Kelly was there. So he's making some changes and he's trying to get UCLA up to speed with what the times are. It's just a matter of how receptive is the university and the fan base going to be to allow Foster to do that.
Yeah. Well, Saturday is not gonna get any easier for Mr. Foster.
No, not at all.
How do you
They're in
how do
good
you
spirits, though. They're in good spirits, though.
I mean, how do you expect them? I know they just had a road trip to Indiana, but
No, they played Indiana at home and got
oh,
the
they did play. Oh, was
yeah,
at home?
yeah.
Okay, they had.
That
I'm
was
sorry,
probably the
it was
scary thing.
Hawaii. They had a road
Hawaii
trip.
was on the road,
Hawaii
yeah.
is. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but little bit different in Death
Oh,
Valley
God, yeah.
than the stadium in Hawaii that only holds like 15,000 or something. It's gonna be about 10 times as many people in Death Valley. How do you think they're gonna handle that atmosphere?
I'm glad you asked that. That was kinda gonna be the whole question about just the Big Ten thing, is you're gonna have more people filling up this stadium at the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl can hold up to, like, 90,000, 100,000 people depending on what the event is, but UCLA is normally during the Chip Kelly era, they're hitting season low or, like, program low in attendance. They're getting 30,000, 35,000. So they're not really used to playing in front of big crowds. And the best game in terms of atmosphere and the crowd was the LSU game when the LSU came to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
The place was packed. That was a good game where I stood on the field and looked and did a circle like around 360 view of the Rose Bowl and said, "Oh, this is different. Like this is not like the other games. This is what a big boy football looks like. This is what happens when the big teams come out in these big brands, right? So yeah, when you go to LSU, it might be a little bit of a culture shock for them. They may be in for a rude awakening of just looking at that crowd and just being like, oh, we're not used to that because you didn't get that at Hawaii. I mean, you may have had 50,000 or something against Indiana here, and you may have some more of that later on down the road with a lot of these Big Ten teams excited to play at the Rose Bowl and you playing at their venues. But yeah, it's for the first true. I guess that's disrespectful to Hawaii. I don't want to say this LSU is their first true road game, but um, first kind of
Power
road
4 road game.
power. There you go. I like that. First Power 4 road game. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of culture shock with them, like you guys mentioned with the weather too, and now that crowd and that atmosphere traveling. I think hell, you have all that kind of piled up on you before you even play the game. It puts them at a disadvantage for sure.
Let me ask this before we get ready to get out of here.
Sure.
Talked about that. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this so it's not so. I guess it doesn't come across as negative, but your thoughts on what UCLA what you need to see from UCLA in this game?
Yeah, they need to be one. They have to be healthy, right? Yeah, I think they just need to be more consistent. I think the biggest thing for me, and I think the thing we really haven't seen a whole lot. Well, we didn't see a whole lot of it in the Hawaii game, and we saw a little bit of it in the Hawaii game. Not so much in the Indiana game. And Eric Bieniemy kind of explained it a little bit because I think one of the reporters asked him like, "Why weren't the receivers all that much involved the way you would expect them to be, considering that's the strongest position group on the offense is definitely the receiving core there." But I think someone threw out the stat to Deshaun or something like that, where most of the passes that went out, a majority of them went to the combination of the tight ends and the running backs. And Bieniemy said, "Hey, I think that stuff kind of happens. It just kind of matters. It's just the flow of the game and the way things happen." they got to find a way to get the receivers involved. I don't know what the LSU secondary is going to look like.
We don't either.
Okay, so maybe UCLA has a chance, but no. I think the running game, I think the passing game, they need to get more involved there. Obviously, the offensive line has to do something as far as giving Ethan Garber some confidence to be able to stand in the pocket there and get the ball out. I think that's definitely important, but you need to get the receivers involved. You need to get J. Michael Sturdivant involved, who has the potential to be an NFL guy. You do have Rico Flores, who just transferred in. He's a true sophomore from Notre Dame and came in that Hawaii game and had 100-something yards and a touchdown, and really is kind of that number one, number two guy that they've been looking for a while now. So if they can get Rico Flores involved, if they can get J. Michael Sturdivant involved, then I'd give them a little bit of a puncher's chance, at least on offense. But I think it starts there. You got to get the passing game going, and then hopefully that opens up for your run game to get a little bit more involved as well. Obviously, that's something that they usually lean on is the run game, but you have to have either the run game working for you, the pass game working for you, so you can open up the other one.
Yeah. All right. What's your prediction for this Saturday?
Sheesh. Probably like 45 to 14. I'll probably go 45-14, something like that. You guys tell me what I mean.
I put it to
how
you
do
like this. I put
Go
it to you
ahead.
like this. All right. LSU, the last time I looked at it, they were 24.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
LSU didn't beat a FCS school named Nicholls State by 24 points.
Okay. So what do you guys? Do you guys think UCLA can come in here and have a chance? Because let alone I did not give them a chance at all when LSU came to the Rose Bowl. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be ugly. Great atmosphere, but this is gonna be ugly. And UCLA messed around and won that game. I know there was some different situations going on. I think even the hurricane was going on at that time when LSU was traveling over. So there was a lot of other stuff going on. But I don't know. You guys give UCLA a shot?
I say this. If UCLA secondary can step up their game from what happened last week, I think they'll be able to kind of hang around a little bit because LSU's running game hasn't been great early on in the season, and UCLA's run defense, like we talked about, has been pretty good. So if they can shut down the LSU run game and get some stops in the back end of that defense, then I think they can stop LSU's offense a little bit. And LSU's defense has been suspect to the run in the last few weeks. So y'all's running game might get going against LSU, which could help open up that passing game and get, Sturdivant and was it Flores?
Flores,
and get those guys going. So I'm not predicting UCLA to come in there and give LSU a run for their money. But if you told me, if you traveled to the future and came back and said LSU won a close 7-point game, that to me that would be how it would happen. Is UCLA found a way to run the ball and UCLA made some plays on the back end of their defense and kind of stole a possession or two and helped their offense like that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt about it. I think you're kind of spot on. I think maybe they got to get some lucky breaks. Something has to go their way. I think it would be encouraging for UCLA if they at least made it a close game. Obviously, the UCLA fans are still going to be upset. They want to win. I just kind of don't see it.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be nice. Ant was being nice. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not see. No. I will say this. I see the first half possibly playing out kind of close, but I do not see UCLA coming in here and pulling out the win. I don't see it, but
I don't see that neither. I'm just saying I could see them keeping it close.
Yeah. But I can see them keeping it close. But that's not that. I don't think. I just there's a lot of unknowns to me. Both teams, a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot more questionable on the UCLA side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt.
LSU at least has some continuity on the offensive side. Defense is shown to improve the last few weeks in a sense. But I think that's just the home field. I think it'll be a little bit too much, and that's where I kind of see it going.
To be fair,
okay.
to be
Go
fair,
ahead.
I
Go
didn't.
ahead.
To be fair, I don't have LSU covering, but I have LSU winning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
right.
think they win comfortably, but I don't think 24 and a half is a lot of points, bro.
That's a lot of points.
It is a whole lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Real quick, you guys maybe were touching on it a little bit before I hopped on. I watched a little bit of that LSU game, and did the refs help them out a little bit there? Because I caught some of it on the radio when I was driving to the Rose Bowl, so I didn't get to see a lot of the second half. But I know there was wasn't there like a touchdown or a pick six that got called all the way back or something like
Two of
that?
them. Two of them.
Two of them. Yeah. I mean, so what is really the vibe with like? Is LSU seems like they're a little vulnerable at least.
They are.
So the first one was like a horse collar. I think that's just that. I mean that was egregious. It was a dumb play.
I haven't heard horse collar called in a long time.
but the guy literally pulled him down from So I mean that was kind of the blindside block. I mean it truly was a blindside block, but I just don't.
It was like so removed from the play, right?
It was. It was.
Is that
I don't know if it was enough. In my opinion, I don't know if it was enough forcible contact for you to deem that as a blindside block. You know what I mean? By definition, the rule says it has to be like to a defensive player, it has to be like unnecessary roughness type, contact. And I don't think it met that criteria. But there was also a play on South Carolina jumped over, flipped over the punter,
the wedge,
the wedge for the punter, and which should have been a penalty. And there was, to me, the worst call that went in LSU's favor was the offensive pass interference that they called against South Carolina. When Robbie Ashford threw the long ball downfield and they brought it back, called offensive pass interference.
Yeah,
I never saw what they were calling. I mean, I wasn't tripping, but I didn't see what they were calling.
Yeah,
right.
But it wasn't, because it's funny. We talked about it on Monday. South Carolina fans have a lot to be upset about. Blaming the refs should not be the one thing they that they get upset about. So,
I mean, officiating is bad all over across the sport.
You got that right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we could look at every game and say, "Oh, look, they got that call wrong. The other team got, it cost them this." We could do that for every game.
Yeah.
I think in the LSU game, the reason why it's being made such a big deal is because you had 2 touchdowns get called back for penalty on a defense, and you don't see that too often.
Yeah. But James, man, appreciated it as always. Before you go, man, let the people know where they can find you and all your good info.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everybody. First of all, thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys want more on UCLA, go on over to the BLEAV in UCLA football podcast. We have a lot of great conversation, a lot of great guests over there as well. And just everything I'm tweeting as far as SoCal sports, including UCLA and USC. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JHW Reporter.
All right.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
All right,
you too, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, before we get let me bring this up real quick.
Oh yeah.
I want your thoughts on this. Danny says, I think the home field and the quote unquote revenge mentality will move the needle in our favor, but I do think they will keep it close until the 4th. Only thing I want to talk about in that comment is the quote unquote revenge mentality.
Okay.
How many players on this current team played in 2021 when we lost to UCLA?
shoot, because it's the Josh Williams, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we ain't got to name them, but what I'm saying is, like,
Yeah, I'm
if you
thinking
look at it,
because
like,
just about everybody. I was, it's funny. I actually thought about this earlier.
Nussmeier was a true freshman. You know what I mean? He ain't play at all. None of your receivers played because half of them wasn't even at LSU at the time. Kyron wasn't here. CJ wasn't here. Aaron Anderson wasn't here. Xavier wasn't here. You know what I mean? Your whole offensive line wasn't here.
Yeah. Jacoby and Guillory, he's
he
not
hurt.
even playing. He's hurt.
You know
John
Greg
Emery,
Penn.
he's hurt.
Greg Penn. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't trying to make fun of Danny because she said that's why she put it in quotes. But I've seen a lot of people saying it's a revenge game, and
it's a
revenge game for the fans, but for the players, they have no ties to that game.
Yeah. So it's funny because we said, just like I talked about, and I actually talked with James and he brought this up, or I asked him about it last time. What's the guy? What's the sissy blue shirt comment?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about it. He was like, nobody in the stadium knew anything about that until like the next day. He said, because that's they don't hear that stuff that was covered. He said nobody even knew anything about that. So a lot of times, and I think it kind of relates to the same situation. We may look at it as a revenge, but they don't care. That's just like some of the rivalries in college football. For instance, LSU fans will look at like the Tulane game. Oh, it's a rivalry, depending on your age. But a lot of them don't know about it or don't care. They don't care about the battle for the Tiger Rag. For Dylan's age, Dylan's age. If LSU stopped playing Arkansas, nobody would care about the battle for the Golden Boot.
Nobody cares about the boot except Arkansas.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
But I just think it's like, I don't know. I'm just tired of that narrative for this game of it being a revenge game when most of the people who playing didn't even play in that game. It ain't like it. Like the Florida State game, you could have called that a revenge game because you just played them the season before
last
that.
year.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but this one too far away, too far removed from the last time we played them for it to matter to me.
Yeah, that's just like when we play Clemson, it's gonna be is it a revenge game for Clemson, quote unquote, and none of them kids were even.
Man, that's 7 years ago.
Yeah. But speaking of Clemson, Florida State renewed conversations with the ACC about revenue distribution.
Yeah, Florida State didn't have no choice. You seen the way they've been playing?
Yeah.
They was like, ain't no conference gonna want us. We're gonna stay where we at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think another reason why that is happening, you see a lot of teams with the Pac-12 kind of making a resurgence. It's funny to say that by adding 4 Mountain West teams. But the Pac-12 is trying to make a resurgence, and it's been rumored that Stanford and Cal may be heading back.
Yeah, I think it's honestly from Clemson and Florida State standpoint, the amount of money they had to pay to leave the ACC to begin with, and they didn't have a guaranteed home to go to. I think that played a big factor in it, and I think the ACC knows they're behind the 8 ball. It's almost like when your wife threatened to leave you, you know what I'm saying? And so you just like, oh, I need to get my act together. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of what they did to the ACC. They threatened to take their ball and leave. So the ACC was like, well, we got to get a better TV deal. We got to get, you know what I'm saying? Like, and kind of get the ACC to do what they needed to do.
Yeah. Well, you want anything else on the Stanford Cal back to the Pac?
That's what it need to be.
Yeah. I know we kind of mentioned before football. I don't think football, basketball. I'm sorry, football and baseball you play a team cross country, that wouldn't matter because even in baseball, you're going to only play them on the weekend and you'll be out there. Volleyball, softball, well, not even softball, volleyball, basketball,
soccer,
those where you play somebody in the middle of the week, that is
Mhm.
where you're going to start seeing issues. So, but it's about that time. Go ahead and talk about these predictions for the week. Week 4 predictions. Go ahead and get this ready. So it's kind of anticlimactic. We got the same picks. You know what's funny? When you sent me, I was actually doing my write-up when you sent me yours, and I did not open it. I intentionally did not open it. I was like, because I don't want to be influenced. I actually looking at this, I almost picked Utah. But I talk about it in the write-up. Speaking of the write-up, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the that is out there and it's published. Let me go ahead and post that link. I'll post the link in the chat here. Our predictions, what we got, why we picked these games. Illinois, Nebraska. Anything quick you want to say on that?
I'm surprised Illinois is as good as they are, honestly.
Yeah.
Shout out Brett Bielema.
Yeah. I don't know. I everything I gotta say is in the write-up, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. USC, Michigan. I will say this. I think you got this game a lot closer than I do. I don't think this is gonna be close at all. Or blowout.
I ain't put this in my write-up, so I'll say it. I ain't put it in my write-up, so I say it. This Miller Mouse first road game, bro.
Yeah, it is. I thought
and he going to the big house.
Yeah. That's true. Very true. That's very true.
Like Quinn Ewers went up there and won, but Quinn Ewers been starting for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like he been on the road to Bama. You know, he been in big road games and stuff like that. This Miller Mouse first taste of it. And it's a conference game, so
yeah. That is very true. I did think about that, but I honestly didn't care. I think it's gonna be a blowout.
It could be. Could be.
Yeah. Number 12, Utah versus number 14, Oklahoma State. Like I said, I picked Utah. You know what's funny? I'm gonna tell you how I know you. I picked Utah, and before you sent me my thing, I had already put the I had already put the Oklahoma State logo in your spot because I knew you was gonna pick Oklahoma State. And I thought about this, and I kept thinking about this game, and I was like, why do I not pick Oklahoma State?
How you knew I was gonna pick Oklahoma State?
I know. Something about this told me ain't gonna pick Oklahoma State. But I seriously I thought about this game and I was like, why don't I like Oklahoma State? And I was like, it might be like a little bit of, I ain't gonna say hatred, but it's like it's stuff like the how Gundy has handled stuff like off the field stuff, the Ollie Gordon stuff. That's the stuff, but I was like, but that has nothing to do with this game. I just don't think Utah got it, and I just moved on. So I was like, yeah.
You want to know a wild stat, bro?
Talk to me.
The starting quarterbacks in this game are combined. You seen that?
Yeah, 49 years old.
49 years old, bro. The starting quarterbacks for the Colts versus the Bears this weekend is 44 years old.
That's wild.
Well, Cam Rising's supposed to play though, Danny.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
But how healthy is he?
Either way, man, I don't think Utah has enough offense. Honestly, that's just kind of. Speaking of not having enough offense, number 6 Tennessee versus 15 Oklahoma. We both picked Tennessee in that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this Heupel back to Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, listen, let's go.
Hey, I think
Hey.
he gonna try to. I think he gonna try to put foot to gas and.
Man, foot to gas, foot to ass. I think he finna try to drop. I think he gonna try to drop 50 on them boys. I really do.
I can see it.
That whole at the end of the game, what we talked about with Alabama. I'm not Alabama State, South Alabama.
Yeah,
Against Northwestern State, going for it on fourth down. I can see Tennessee doing that with the
I
backup.
just wonder if he gonna leave Nico. I am a leaver. I cannot say that dude last name for shit. But I wonder if he gonna leave Nico in the game in the fourth quarter when he up by 14.
I wouldn't pull him until I'm up by 20, at least 24. Well, depending on how late in the fourth, I will pull
It's
him
the
in.
way. It's the way they fired that man though. That's why he.
Oh
it's,
yeah.
It's almost as bad as Lane Kiffin USC. You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
That's cold blooded, man.
Paul also said Utah, Oklahoma State is the LinkedIn Bowl. Oh man. And then of course both of us picked UCLA, LSU. We picked LSU.
I got them to win, but not cover.
I got them covering. But we'll see.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I actually do. Well, no, I don't. If it's 24 and a half.
Mm-hmm. The hook got you.
The hook got you. But all our picks are the same. But y'all know we got a somewhat third co-host. Dylan put his picks in. Come on, Dylan. Let's talk to the people. All right. And then you got to get ready for bed. So Illinois versus Nebraska. You pick Illinois. What made you pick Illinois? Watch you say something like because I've been to Illinois before.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I thought I was gonna say because they were before the alphabet, but I had to remember my alphabet first.
Don't tell nobody else that. I just been telling people you smart. Don't you tell nobody else.
No. Don't you forget? I have not heard
he's
the
not
song
right.
in
He's not wrong
I have
though.
not
I
heard
do
the song in a
before
while.
in.
I know he said I had to remember if that come before then. So, all right.
Hey, I'll be having to do the same thing, man. I'll be having the ABCD,
All right. So you got number 11, USC. Hold on, I'll let you put this in so you can hear Ant talking. All right. You got it in?
Yeah.
All right. You got number 11, USC versus number 18, Michigan. You pick USC.
They look good.
They look good. Okay. Utah, Oklahoma State. You pick Oklahoma State.
Their season has been good.
Their season has been good. I mean, okay.
All right. He ain't lying.
Yeah, he ain't. Tennessee, Oklahoma. You pick Tennessee.
Better rank.
Because they're better ranked?
Yeah.
Okay. UCLA and LSU. You picked LSU.
I have a reason. Because at first I think first quarter is going to be kind of tied up. Mm-hmm. And then at second, UCLA is going to take the 7-point lead. Mm-hmm. And then the second half is going to be an absolute blowout by LSU.
Okay.
Isn't that no? I was about to say that's what happened with South Carolina, but no.
Not exactly. But last week you picked South Carolina to beat LSU. I think you should have stuck with that theme and pick LSU because if you pick LSU and they lose, you can't pick LSU the rest of the season.
No, that's not how it works.
That's how it's gonna work in this house.
Okay. What if I get all the predictions right?
You get all the predictions right. I might let you pick the games next week, which games we choose.
Okay.
We'll be picking South Alabama and McNeese State. You ain't fooling with you. All right, you got anything else before you get ready to go to bed?
Good night.
Good night. All right, appreciate it. Love you.
No, you too, Dada.
All right.
Bye.
All right, that's his predictions. Let's see what else we got. NFL. Hold on. No, I'm sorry. No, that's just those predictions. predictions. Other notable games. We started getting rid of. Get up out of here. Other notable games. It's two that we almost picked. Arkansas versus Auburn.
Blowout. Blowout.
Think Petrino gonna pull it out?
Man, Auburn is terrible. They have no quarterback. They starting a quarterback named Hank Brown. Yeah, you heard me right. A failed country music singer is now finna be like, don't that just sound like a country music singer name? Hank Brown, like Hank Brown and the so and so band. You know what I mean? Like it just, but this dude had no other P4 offers, but Auburn offered him, and he will now start for Auburn this weekend versus Arkansas. Arkansas finna hang 50 up on them boys. Like we talking about an Auburn team that lost to Cal.
Yeah.
And now they're about to lose to Calipari team, which is Arkansas.
That's funny. A matchup that is, I guess, I kind of glossed over this one. I guess because saying only one side is ranked. North Carolina State versus Clemson.
North Carolina State almost lost to Louisiana Tech last week. I know if you look at the score, they say they won by 10. I know if you look at the score, they say they won by 10, but they was down at half by like double digits.
That's crazy.
So I think Clemson get their swagger back.
All right, you got Tulane versus ULL.
The battle of little brother. I've never picked ULL in anything, so give me Tulane.
Yeah.
Colorado Baylor. Who you got?
You said oh God. I think this is Colorado. This is one of the games I had Colorado winning.
I think they win, but I think Baylor cover.
That's fair. That's fair. I can't even find it now. Welcome to the Big 12. Houston goes to Cincinnati.
They familiar with each other.
Yeah. Well, are they? Are they? Because
not with Willie Fritz. You're right. Yeah. You're right. New staff. I was just thinking about the schools.
The schools
from the AAC. Who the coach for Cincinnati? I feel like I should know this. Is Jeff Brom?
No, Brom is at Louisville.
No, I thought he left Louisville for Cincinnati.
No, he left Purdue for Louisville.
Okay, it's Satterfield then.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Okay. Man, give me Houston.
Hey, do you know, ironically, Scott Satterfield. You know, ironically, Cincinnati is the I think it's like the closest away game for us to go visit.
Damn.
Yes, it's only like a 5-hour drive. I say only, like 5 hours ain't a long time. Trying to see what else. I think we got another one in here that might be where App State versus South Alabama. I know which way you going, and that's tomorrow night too.
App State and who?
South Alabama.
App State, because F South Alabama for what they did in Northwestern State.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it as far as games with a pulse.
We got some news if you want to go there.
Go ahead.
So today Trey Holly had court.
Yeah.
And it ain't looking good, man. His next hearing is scheduled for December 18th. The state introduced new evidence in the case, and the victim in the case came to court, and she's seeking justice for her injuries. So I think this one could be drawn out a little longer. Obviously, at least till December, but possibly even further after December. So don't look like we'll be having Trey Holly in a Tiger uniform this football season.
Yeah. I hate to hear that. Praying for all involved. It's unfortunate. I will say that I think what's most important here, I want to see Trey Holly play football. What's most important here is that, justice is served. I pray that he is, it is found favorable for him. With that said, though, I do think there are times you do have to, there are things more important than football. Somebody could have lost their life. When this is over, if he is, adjudicated, pray that he's mentally able to bounce back and stuff like that. So that's where I stand with that. I know you try not to speak much on it because of being close to that area and know what Trey means to the area and the kind of character he is. So
yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation all the way around for those accused, for the victim. You know what I mean? It's just unfortunate that it all came to this. But like you said, I think we all just want to see justice get served, and the people who are actually guilty of this to face time for what they did.
Yeah. All right, man. We can move on to the NFL now. We can kind of keep it kind of quick. Eagles coming to New Orleans after losing on Monday night, blowing a bunch of people's parlays, blowing a bunch of people's bets. I am a bunch of people. But the Eagles, after losing to Atlanta, now come to New Orleans to take on the Red Hot Saints.
I just put a picture on Facebook. It's got a picture of Meek Mill and it say Eagles defense, and it's got a picture of Diddy that say Derek Carr. So that's my prediction for Sunday.
What kind of baby oil he like? Oh man. I honestly, this Eagles team is a long way from where they were 2 years ago on that Super Bowl run.
They got trouble. I think Sirianni on the hot seat. Which is crazy because if you say that 2 years ago you was in the Super Bowl, now you in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Like, and you started last year like
undefeated.
10-0 or something like that. Like you was
something crazy.
Something crazy. You started off the season with a great record, then you just crashed down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't. It's not looking too good. Feel it, girl. You in trouble. You in trouble. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because the Saints find a way every time. So, but I am more confident this year than I have been in a while.
I'm still cautiously optimistic. Yeah, there you go. I was finna say optimistically cautious, but that's the wrong way to put it.
Yeah. Cam Newton. Been a lot of reports that he's been working out for.
Stop it, bro. We're not even finna stop it. Ain't nobody
Different
finna pick
teams.
him. Ain't nobody finna pick him up, man.
When it came out, or when it was said, the first thing that came to my mind.
I ain't even see this, but I don't.
So it came. So it was one that said he was, supposed to be meeting with Carolina, and then there was another one said he was meeting with Miami. And it's funny because Tyreek Hill said we already got enough kids around the team.
Yeah, I'm not buying that, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's one of them.
Somebody just made something up.
Yeah, one of them fake Adam Schefter or one of them type deals. Because ain't no way, bro.
Yeah. Other NFL games. We got the battle of LSU on Monday night. As you got Joe Burrow and the Bengals taking on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in Cincinnati.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to watch. Jaguars take on Bills Monday night as well at 6:30.
Don't care at all.
Chiefs come to Atlanta, take on the Falcons. That's the primetime game Sunday night.
As long as the Falcons lose, I'm good.
Bro, this is the pity full bowl. I don't know. Panthers take on the Raiders.
You said the who and the Raiders?
The Panthers.
I mean, I would rather watch grass grow.
Maybe a little bit of get back. Packers come to Tennessee, take on the Titans, and is Malik Willis still starting? With
Jordan Love trying to come back, but they don't know if he's gonna play or not.
That's funny. Sam said I heard Tom Brady's working out for Miami.
He needed to do something to get out that commentating booth because he was terrible.
That dude was all right. Tua. A lot of her it's been rumored. A lot of people trying to convince him to retire. Miami's placed him in on IR, and I agree. He needs to. I think he needs to retire. I don't know, man. At this point, it's like he's doing number damage to himself at this point.
Oh, the 49ers gonna blow the Rams out, bro. It ain't even finna be close.
Yeah.
The Rams ain't got Puka. The Rams ain't got Cooper Kupp. The Rams ain't got like 2 offensive linemen. Like, it's finna get bad for the Rams. They got Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. That's it.
Hey, so I know you saw it. I know you didn't watch UFC this past weekend, but did you see Kendrick Lamar in the crowd?
You stupid, man.
I'm sorry, Bud Lamar. Terrence Lamar? I don't know. But yeah, so for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Bud Crawford, Terrence Bud Crawford, the undisputed the undisputed boxing champion across he's like 3 different divisions, was at a UFC event this weekend, and they showed a graphic of, I forget who was a guy sitting next to him, but they showed Bud Crawford, and it said Grammy Award winner Kendrick Lamar. What in the we all just look alike is going on?
Right.
And then it was bad because they said that I think they showed like Rihanna thought it was not Chris Brown. Chris Brown was there too. Rihanna thought Bud Crawford. They said she thought he was Kendrick Lamar or something, and she was talking with him, and then realized it. I was like, I think that was fake, but it's just been interesting, very interesting. But man, you got anything else before we get ready to get up out of here?
No, that's it for me.
Yeah, I gotta get back, man. I gotta finish recruiting and
I gotta go eat. I ain't been home since
play a game.
Since 7 this morning, bro. I gotta go eat.
Yeah, he's doing work for the Lord. But go ahead and get up out of here. We'll be back Sunday. Should be back Sunday. Yeah, I ain't going away. Ain't got nothing going on. We'll be back on Sunday. Hopefully talking about a win. Go check out the order. Like that. We out. This show was presented by betonline.ag.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Twitter at Golden Boot. On Instagram at Golden Boot. On YouTube at The Golden Boot Pod. On Facebook at The Golden Boot Pod.
Golden